Presented today is a rare clock boasting an innovative supplementary mechanism.
And then it goes through there and it screws into the centre. So you can lock your pendulum rigid. Now when you take it home, it's not going to shake around.
This timepiece is referred to as a skeleton clock. It is typical of English clockmaking circa 1860 to 1865.
We made numerous different models of skeleton clocks. And this one is actually rather better viewed from behind because you can see the architectural plates working a bit better there.
Each plate rests on 3 feet, making it 6 feet in all.
And the 2 plates are held in position by these rather nice tapering baluster pillars.
This outstanding clock is crafted entirely from brass. Disassembly by a skilled clockmaker is required to preserve its integrity while polishing and cleaning.
And every individual part cleaned, polished, put together, and then it will look absolutely magnificent.
While the front shows light fading, the back boasts a beautiful rosewood grain. In its present state, this exceptional skeleton clock would be valued at...
Well, realistically today, at auction, and I have to say at auction because it's not in retail condition at the moment, it would still make close to £1,000.
Really?
Yeah.
A portrait painted by the famous artist Adelaide Chase in Boston is brought in for appraisal. It is a portrait of the owner's mother at 4 years old and in the early 20th century. Adelaide was the most important painter in Boston. From an early age, she was surrounded with art and music as her father, Foxcroft Cole, was a painter and her mother was a pianist. At the end of the 19th century, she trained with Frank Benson and Edmund Tarbell at the Boston Museum School, where she learned the art of painting. In 1892, Adelaide got married to William Chester Chase, who was also an architect, and continued to work as a married woman, which was uncommon at the time. Furthermore, the portrait style is Boston School with an American impressionistic approach and subtle palette unlike other artworks at the time. Another valuable piece in the frame, and it is signed at the back as Thulin 1932, which was the year the portrait was done. In 1903, Wilfrid Thulin, Herman Dudley Murphy and Charles Prendergast teamed up to make a frame shop and made hand-carved frames that made them famous at the time. The owner was not going to sell her mother, hence the reasonable insurance value for this portrait would be...
So for insurance purposes, I'd insure it for $32,000.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gee, she did always say she was.
Sheep shearing is an important activity that happens around late May of the year, and here the coat of a wool that a male sheep has grown for a year was removed. After shearing the sheep, the next step is to pull the fibers apart to remove dirt and debris, and to loosen the wool for the hot scouring solution to work through.
So one has to pick it, pulling apart the fibers to loosen it up, but loosening it in such a way.
When put in the hot scouring solution, all the grease on it from the farm would come out of the wool, and the next step is to brush it out piece by piece. The brushed out wool will then be spun on the spinning wheel using a knitting yarn.
So that roll is something that I'm now going to attach to the yarn. I'm going to take that wool that I carded, I'm going to lay it right next to that piece of yarn.
After spinning, the wool is taken out and stretched on a frame called a nitty noddy, which measures how many yards has been done.
Once around this frame, sometimes called a nitty noddy, it measures 2 yards around once.
Next is to weave the wool into fabric, and the weaver has pedals to press to the floor, which is where the patterns come from.
In the harnesses with the threads that are going up and down, I take a shuttle that has a bobbin of thread, and I shuttle through. How long does it take to weave?
The job of weaving wool takes several hours to weeks, hence having multiple hands working on the task makes it faster.
Everything else running a household and running a farm. Many hours over many days. That could turn into weeks.
We have this book from the past, which we can trace its date to 1830. It originally belonged to a schoolgirl. The schoolgirl was a student of the Monticello Female Academy. Monticello Academy was the only female seminary based in Mississippi. Embellished on the book are wonderful folk art drawings. Additionally, she also did her lessons on it. What would the books be valued in today's market? This unique silver piece was passed down from the guest's great-great-grandfather, James Park Corbin. For provenance purposes, the guests also brought James's picture along with it. This silver piece, a silver spurs to be exact, is quite fabulous. There are inscriptions to James just inside of the spurs. The spurs was most likely made in America, as it has all the marks of being American-made.
They're beautifully made eagles. In America, the eagle symbolizes power, it symbolizes authority, and it has...
Spurs like this were often handed out to individuals who had done something important.
He did something really important to have gotten these spurs. This is the top of the line spur. This is the kind of spur that was given to a general, that sort of thing. This just isn't a run-of-the-mill spur.
As such, it is most likely that James must have done something important, as the spurs were specially made and inscribed to him. At auction, this piece of American silver and craftsmanship would be worth
of around $5,000.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for bringing them.
This item is a vintage ukulele crafted by an employee of the renowned Martin Guitar Company. The employee in question was this guest's grandfather. He began working at Martin Guitar after returning from World War I. The ukulele is an employee model with unique features.
It has this little 3-piece nut. It has the lines down the center, 5-piece line. It has these pearl ornaments.
Unlike standard models from that era, this ukulele has a spruce top with rosewood back and side. Additionally, there's its detailed craftsmanship, which includes celluloid bindings and grained ivory.
Celluloid ornament, and you've got this also celluloid. Actually, they call it grained ivory because it looks like ivory, sort of.
Despite being a grade 3 model, this particular ukulele stands out due to its rare customization.
This inlay in the back was an inlay that was used later on in the style 28 guitars. I'm surprised to see it on this instrument.
A unique employee model, this ukulele could fetch a retail value of...
A retail value would be $4,000, perhaps a bit more.
That's great.
Today's display features a beautiful brooch that is a sight to behold. It was passed down to the guests from their grandmother, who received it from her boyfriend.
Did she marry the boyfriend?
No, unfortunately she didn't. I really don't even know what his name was. I wish I would have known that, but...
Poor guy.
To begin with, the green gemstones on this turtle-shaped brooch are not emeralds, but rather demantoids, a type of green garnet. The demantoids have a rich history behind them.
It was the first of the green garnets discovered in Russia. The stones are Russian.
This brooch dates back to approximately 1890, when it was crafted in England. A delicate catch was added to the gold frame, allowing the piece to be worn as a pendant, showcasing the green garnets and diamonds. Ruby eyes, though small, make a big impact and add to the brooch's appeal.
And it's probably either 15 or 18 carat.
What's truly remarkable is that it's a turtle-shaped piece that doubles as both a brooch and pendant, and today its value would be...
As a retail value today, you're talking about $12,000, $15,000, and possibly even $18,000. I mean, it's really quite a wonderful thing and a very saleable thing.
I plan on continuing the history and giving it to my granddaughter and hoping she will do the same with her granddaughter.
Good.
Before us stands a delightful rooster figurine. The guest inherited it from her mother, who recalls it being in her uncle's home.
And when you were a child, did you play with this?
I certainly did. I used to ride it, pretend that it was a pony, and sit on the back of it and just ride around.
This rooster figurine is believed to have originated from the guest's mother's uncle's business, a dairy and poultry products store. It was likely displayed in the store window as a form of advertisement. Although it was probably created by a master carver of carousel figures, the appraiser classifies it as folk art. Elaborately, it was carved to be a storefront display, advertising the guest's great-uncle's wares. It's remarkably well preserved and still in its original condition.
It has its original painted surface.
With a small conversation issue to be addressed by a specialist, its value is estimated at...
And I feel it's worth between $5,000 and $8,000.
Well, thank you very much.
A magnificent guitar takes center on today's show. The guitar was previously owned by the guest's father, a professional musician. It's a prime example of one of the most revered American schools of archtop guitar building. The workshop of Charles Stromberg was the birthplace of this exceptional instrument.
And it's an interesting piece to study today. When we first stand back and look at this instrument, we notice how large it is, really large bottomed out all the way around.
Charles Stromberg and his son designated this model as the 400 series.
To compete with Gibson's Super 400 of the day. And this large air volume of this instrument was made to project over the top of an orchestra.
Unlike many guitars, this one is meticulously carved, much like a violin. This guitar features a stunning blonde finish, complemented by an exquisite wood selection on the back.
Looking at this guitar when I pulled it out of the case, I noticed right away that it was domestic maple, and probably maple cut at some point somewhere in New England.
Adorned with captivating inlay designs, this instrument is a feast for the eyes, worth a value of.
I would say that these guitars, being as coveted that they are today, I would say it's a pretty easy appraisal at $25,000.
The guest rediscovered old Avengers comics brought by his mother at an auction. They had been stored away in a Washington State apple box, covered with duct tape. Upon reopening the box, the guest found 2 issues of the Avengers, among other comics. The appraiser highlighted the significance of these particular comics. They featured iconic 60s characters and covers by Jack Kirby. These included early appearances of Captain Marvel, the X-Men with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and other prominent characters like Juggernaut. These characters have become central to contemporary pop culture. The comics, once considered pulp garbage, are now worth several $1,000s. They were struck by the difference between the older and modern portrayals of these characters.
The characters have changed so much over the last 40 years. I think every one of these heroes has died at least 20 or 30 times.
The guest expressed amazement at both the high value and the nostalgia associated with the comics. The guest bought a painting at a yard sale for $12. It was identified as an unframed oil painting on canvas, similar to the work of the French artist Théodore Géricault. He was a key figure in the French Romantic movement. The painting was believed to be a more recent production, possibly from the 1970s. Géricault's original painting of a Napoleonic cavalryman was created around 1812. Despite its meticulous detail, the piece was determined to be a modern reproduction, likely from around 1980. It exhibited a certain optical fidelity and high technical quality, but lacked the unique details of an original Géricault. The modern canvas and wood stretcher contrasted with those of an 1812 painting. The appraiser concluded that the painting was created as a homage to Géricault rather than as a forgery. As a modern decorative copy, it would likely fetch,
at an auction, maybe $100, maybe a couple $100.
The guest presented a hat that belonged to her grandfather. He was a member of the Muckletonians, a hunting club from Clark County, Kentucky. The guest brought a brochure from the trip, dated 1878.
And in it says, an old organization whose members are devoted to the gun and the rod for recreation and good fellowship.
That's right.
The hat was identified as a classic Boss of the Plains model by John B. Stetson, produced in the 1980s. The appraiser pointed out that the hat's label read, John B. Stetson, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The piece featured a braided horsehair band and a German silver button modeled after a Texas Rangers badge. Additionally, the guest brought an unfinished elk horn scraper, likely obtained from an indigenous group during the same period. Due to the current popularity of Western collectibles, the hat was considered highly valuable. The appraised value for the items were,
I would say this hat would be worth a minimum of $600. The hat band itself was probably worth $300 or $400. And I wouldn't be surprised at all at a Western collectibles auction if you didn't get $1,000 for
the hat?
for just the hat.
Wow.
Sculptures that challenge our perception of reality are rare, but one such piece by Mexican artist Feliciano Bejar stands out. A guest recounts purchasing an intriguing object at a thrift store in Wisconsin about a year ago, initially mistaking it for a magnifying glass. It was later identified as a work by Mexican artist Feliciano Bejar, who started as a street peddler and then apprenticed with a carpenter, sparking his artistic creativity.
Feliciano was born in Michoacan region in a poor family. He assisted his father as a young man. He was a street peddler.
Bejar's career evolved from painting to sculpture, with his distinctive Magiscopes emerging in the 1960s. The appraiser reveals that this piece is a Magiscope, a unique sculpture of form Bejar perfected, created from found machinery parts and polished glass lenses designed to distort reality rather than clarify it. The piece, dated 1978, is polished and refined, suggesting it was a gift, as indicated by the inscription on the base. Despite Bejar's significant contributions to art, he is often regarded more as a craftsman. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
"But an identical piece is being offered in a retail setting right now for $3,000. So it's a pretty great purchase."
Yes.
I think as time goes on, his pieces are going to increase in value.
Imagine a rare Einstein manuscript on technology and happiness, tracing its journey from afar. A speech typed by Albert Einstein was acquired by the speaker's father-in-law at Yale after hearing it on the radio. The document was then passed down to her husband. Her father-in-law, a physicist, and her husband, also a physicist, were both deeply interested in Einstein. The speech is a 1931 transcript of Einstein's lecture to Caltech students. In the brief address, Einstein discusses whether technological advancements are good for humanity. He questions why applied science, which simplifies life, brings so little happiness. He attributes this to humanity's failure to use it wisely. Although Einstein hadn't moved to the US yet, he would later work at Caltech. The letter is notable for Einstein's insight into technological progress. However, it includes racially insensitive language about indigenous cultures. Einstein compares the happiness of indigenous peoples with the unhappiness of modern society. Despite its historical significance, the document might fetch between $10,000 and $20,000 at auction.
I would estimate this at $10,000 to $20,000.
Okay. Not that we're going to part with it, but hopefully it will be passed down to...
Despite this, Einstein's signature makes the document highly valuable. Here's a surprising find that left even a seasoned appraiser amazed. The appraiser, who has been with Antiques Roadshow since its first year, was amazed by a unique item. Despite seeing many things over the years, he admitted this was new to him. The owner found the lamp during an online search. He remembered a rain lamp from his childhood at a restaurant his parents used to visit. Fascinated, he bought a similar lamp later and began collecting them, though his wife wasn't impressed. He contacted the seller, drove to Milwaukee that night, and bought the lamp for $150, down from the $200 asking price.
The gentleman I bought it from said he bought it from another older gentleman who said it was from a 1968 car show. And that seems reasonable. It's got the Cadillac emblems on there, and I've never seen another one.
He learned it might be from a 1968 car show, as it had Cadillac emblems. He hadn't seen another like it and knew little about its history. An appraiser revealed he'd seen similar lamps at a 1960s car show, suggesting more were made. The appraiser noted the lamp's fragile design and heavy-duty fishing line, with 4 lamps made, only 2 survived. The design mirrored modern aesthetics of the time, similar to Eero Saarinen's 1955 tulip chair. For maintenance, regular mineral oil works well, despite different original oil viscosity. The appraiser estimated its auction value at $3,000 to $5,000, which excited the owner as a great investment.
A very conservative price on this at auction would be $3,000 to $5,000.
That is great. Great investment.
Uncovering the secrets of a rare Bakelite set offers a glimpse into the past. She purchased the item from an antique dealer who had known the previous owner, an elderly woman who had passed away. The family brought the item to the dealer for sale, disclosing that it was a butterscotch Bakelite from the 1920s and had been owned solely by the older woman. This made the current owner only the second owner of the item. The current owner paid $225 for the item.
What makes your set very special is it is Art Deco from the 20s.
The expert notes that this is a unique colour of Bakelite, referred to as cloudy or marbleized apple juice. This colour is primarily known as Bakelite, with some people calling it Catlin. This set's significance is in its Art Deco design from the 1920s, painted areas with little rhinestones. These are reminiscent of bangle bracelets from the same era, which were made of Bakelite with rhinestones. The set includes a picture frame, hair receiver, button hook, and other implements for nail care. All of these pieces are in excellent condition, with the expert believing that the item may have never been used. Considering its rare colour and great condition, the expert estimates its value to be between $600 and $800. A family treasure trove reveals a surprising connection to Albert Einstein. Her grandmother had a sister, Lottie Einstein, who lived in New York. Lottie worked as an X-ray technician for Dr. Bucky, a close friend of Einstein's. As a result, Lottie met Einstein on a personal level and began taking photographs of him. This photograph, featuring Lottie herself, accompanied by a letter written to her and signed by Einstein in German. Unfortunately, the translation of the letter is unknown. The letter, dated 1942, is challenging to translate, with an expert in German unable to decipher the text. It appears that Lottie had given Einstein some chocolate or candy during the holidays. He was expressing his gratitude. Einstein's handwriting is quite distinctive, with a small, compact signature. The middle piece is a sketch signed by Einstein, which was featured on the cover of a 1955 issue of Saturday Review. The sketch is addressed to Lottie's sister, Alice Schlesinger. The final item is an autographed biography of Albert Einstein, published in 1949. The book, titled The World as I See It, is a philosophical writing by Einstein, an inscription featuring both English and German. The total value of these items is estimated to be between $13,000 and $17,000.
It's nice to know.
A family's humble roots hide a surprising connection to a famous historical figure. He didn't know much about the weaving except that it was given by Kit Cosonto, the foster father of his grandmother. He wondered if anyone knew who made the weaving or what kind of blanket it was, guessing it might be Navajo. Ted examined the blanket and noticed that he had stopped breathing for a moment, so surprised by its significance. Ted revealed that the blanket was Navajo chief's blanket, made between 1840 and 1860. It was a rare and valuable item made for Ute chiefs and represented Navajo weaving in its purest form. The linear design was characteristic of early Navajo weaving, predating the more complex patterns that came later. The condition of the blanket was remarkable, with only minor damage and evidence of an old repair done with yarn. The blanket was made from hand-woven wool, dyed with indigo, a valuable dye at the time. Ted deemed it an extraordinary piece of art, and the most important item to come to the roadshow that he had seen. Ted asked if he had any idea of the blanket's value, and he replied that he had no idea, having thought little of it. Ted estimated that, on a bad day, it would be worth $350,000, and on a good day, $500,000. He was stunned, having no idea of its value, and Ted congratulated him on possessing a national treasure. If they could prove that Kit Carson had indeed owned the blanket, its value would increase by 20%. He was amazed, having discovered a treasure that had been hidden in plain sight, draped over a chair in his home. Our guest inherited these paintings from his father, who received them as a thank you gift from the artist. The artist had given them to Ivan's father for saving his life during a brutal snowstorm in Canada. While hunting moose, Ivan's father spotted the artist stumbling in the snow and turned back to rescue him. After being received, the artist offered to paint a painting for Ivan's father as a gesture of gratitude. These paintings were created early in the artist's career, making them a significant part of his work. Our guest's parents never found the paintings particularly attractive.
And for 14 years it sat in the basement behind my dad's gun rack.
Despite their hidden past, the paintings now hold sentimental value for Ivan due to the dramatic story behind them. The paintings serve as a symbol of bravery and gratitude, passed down through generations.
My mother and father never thought it was all that attractive.
Today's guest discusses the joy of appreciating life's small pleasures. The guest confesses that he deeply misses hugging his mother and family. He He finds it odd to have gone 8 months without feeling his mother's arms around him. His family is deeply feeling the effects of that. The guest also stressed another point. He's eager to share a dance with strangers. He believes we often overlook the little things we take for granted. His words are profoundly insightful and encourage us to cherish life's small joys.
You don't realize the small things that we take for granted, like sitting next to a stranger at a bar and having a random conversation and calling it a night.
Before us is a rare and exquisite Rosenberg vase. The guest received this masterpiece as an inheritance from her mother.
When it came into my possession, I looked online and I saw something that looked similar, but there was no description.
This exquisite example was created by one of the finest porcelain companies in the world, Rosenberg. The Netherlands ceramics heritage stretches back to the 16th century, encompassing both low and high fired techniques. As the 19th century drew to a close, they shifted from traditional Chinese and Delft styles to embrace Art Nouveau, resulting in this decidedly French-looking piece.
It is so well done, and it is delicate in every facet.
Rosenberg produced multiple series, but this specific collection is crafted in delicate eggshell porcelain.
It is extremely delicate, fine, and translucent.
The vase features an Asian Art Nouveau painting with 2 beautifully complementary sides.
One with this gorgeous bird. This is very difficult to make. And this one with this chrysanthemum.
Although Rosenberg produced other lines during this period, this particular one is their most iconic and highly valued, with an estimated worth of...
I would estimate this at $2,000 to $3,000.
Surprised. Really surprised. I haven't really given it much thought at all.
If you wished to insure it, I would probably do this at about $4,000 or $5,000.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Gosh, I really didn't have it.
Today's item features a print of exceptional beauty. Hokusai, a master artist, is credited with this extraordinary work. Katsushika Hokusai was a Japanese artist, ukiyo-e woodblock printer and painter. He is considered one of the greatest artists in Japanese history and a leading figure in the development of ukiyo-e woodblock prints. This breathtaking piece is titled Kanagawa Oki Namiura, meaning the Great Wave of Kanagawa. The series was made during the early 1830s, specifically from 1830 to 1833. The print from the paper is dated to the mid-20th century. As a non-original piece, it would be valued at...
In retail shops, they sell it around $200 to $300. If it was original one, it could have been $100,000. The record is over $1 million.
On display today is a photo of the legendary Elvis Presley, a friend of our guest. The guest snapped this photo of Elvis at the time of his military induction. Elvis Aaron Presley was an American singer, musician, and actor known as the King of Rock and Roll. He is one of the most significant cultural icons of the 20th century. Born in Tupelo, Mississippi, Elvis grew up in a poor household and developed a passion for music from an early age. He began his career in the mid-1950s, blending genres like rockabilly, blues, gospel, and country to create a unique sound. Elvis is seen here with a stencil in his mouth, as both hands are occupied with other things. The image is outstanding and holds considerable worth.
He put the stencil in his mouth because he doesn't have a free hand.
You had told me a cute story about a woman who had come and said which corner did he have in his mouth, and then found that corner and
she kissed it.
We dive into the world of scenery with what we have here, a vintage camera that evokes much beauty. The guest inherited this item from her parents as an heirloom. The item was made in 1850 in the United States by the Lewis brothers. The name daguerreotype was coined from the very first type of the camera made in 1838 by Louis Daguerre, who was a French artist and photographer, recognized for his invention of the eponymous daguerreotype process of photography. The camera features a wooden box design with brass fittings and a simple lens. On the camera is a sliding box design that allows for manual focus, and its lens, likely of simple construction, essential for controlling light exposure.
That had been sensitized with mercury and iodine to make it light sensitive.
The significance of the Louis daguerreotype camera lies during the dawn of photography, marking a period when capturing portraits became publicly accessible. Although the item is very rare, there are some notable condition issues which can affect its value. Considering the rarity and the pivotal role the Louis daguerreotype camera played in photographic memory, this vintage camera at auction should sell for
$8,000 to maybe $10,000 is a good estimate for this particular camera.
That's amazing.
This 1932 Alcatraz jail cell sample promoted prison cell sales, notably for Alcatraz. This metal sample replicates the design and mechanics of cells in the infamous Alcatraz prison. Alcatraz housed dangerous criminals, and this sample reflects its high security environment. The sample showcases cell bars, locks, and latches, highlighting the security of full-sized versions. This Alcatraz island adds historical context, recalling the prison's notorious past. The keys symbolize Alcatraz's confinement and control. This sample illustrates Alcatraz's history, security, and marketing. This jail cell sample cost about...
I just found out it was worth $15,000. That's pretty interesting to me. I don't know what I'm doing now.
Her grandfather played for Oklahoma, and her son for Washburn. This 1906 poster advertises a Thanksgiving game between Oklahoma and Washburn in Oklahoma City. The artwork shows a player in early football gear, reflecting the sport's evolving nature. Surprisingly few attended, according to the records.
According to the school records, there was only 59 people in attendance.
Really?
Bold red and blue colors highlight the rivalry and grab attention. Excursions on all railroads shows the game's wide appeal and travel needs. This game came as football transitioned to a safer, more regulated sport after the 1905 reforms. The vibrant clash of early football, the appraiser valued.
At auction, I would expect it to sell for between $1,500 and $2,000.
Really?
An example of Art Deco design, likely a decorative screen or etched glass panels. Panels with etched designs of musical instruments, geometric patterns, and stylized lines. The reflective etched glasswork embodies the elegant Arco Deco style of the 1920s and 1930s. Hector Whistler was a British artist known for murals and glass panels. Light shifts create a dynamic interplay with the artwork.
And actually, technically, they've been done through a process of sandblasting, which gives that lovely grade and shade. But the designs are so stylish and so much echo the era.
Such items adorned upscale interiors, reflecting Art Deco glamour and sophistication. This object could have been a room divider or a wall feature, adding elegance with its musical-themed imagery. The intricate designs harmonize with its elegant surroundings, which the appraiser valued.
At auction, they're probably going to be somewhere around £500 a panel, which times by the 13 you have puts them at that £5,000 to £6,000, maybe £6,000 to £6,500 bracket.
The guest presented an iconic original mask that Clayton Moore wore in the first episode of The Lone Ranger. This initial version was made of plaster of Paris, covered with purple felt to provide a striking contrast for black and white filming. The guest also had a childhood picture with Clayton Moore, who gifted his friend, the guest's father, this mask signed in 1951. Inscribing it with, "To my pal," he also added a note to the guest's mother, making it a treasured family keepsake. This mask was worn before Moore switched to the more familiar black mask he designed because the original covered too much of his face. Because of its historical importance and personal connection, the mask was estimated to be worth...
I think that this is worth at least $25,000.
Oh my gosh.
The appraiser also hinted that its value could skyrocket at auction due to its rarity and the inscription from Clayton Moore. Horsehair bridle not only shows amazing craftsmanship, but also tells a story of tragedy. A guest presents a family heirloom, a prison-made horsehair bridle crafted by his great-grandfather around 1912, tied to dramatic family history. The great-grandfather was imprisoned for second-degree murder after shooting his wife in 1911 during an altercation in Spokane, Washington. He had discovered her in a compromising situation with his brother, which led to the incident. She, an artist, had reportedly drawn a gun, which he wrestled away before the fatal shooting, as documented in the Spokesman Review. The appraiser highlights the bridle's craftsmanship, noting that woven horsehair art was common in western U.S. prisons like Deer Lodge and Laramie. This particular piece stands out for its smooth, rounded edges, a testament to the maker's skill, and features reverse painted glass roundels which would have been difficult to obtain.
There are no portions of horsehair which are loose in any way. That's the sign of a very good bridle.
Artistically, the appraiser rates the bridle a 10 out of 10, emphasizing its rarity, especially as he'd never encountered one from Walla Walla before. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
We're looking at $4,000 at auction.
That's good. I was thinking it was close to that. Well, thank you.
Hats are like time capsules, preserving stories of the past with every fold and stitch. A woman from Cape Cod brought an old beaver hat for appraisal. It was believed to have belonged to her great-great-grandfather, Captain Maurice Perry, who built their family home in 1832. The appraiser identified the hat as a rare, tall hat from the 1830s, especially valuable since it came with its original case. The hat box, labelled from a French paper importer in New Bedford, was made from French paper, renowned for its hand-blocked, hand-stenciled wallpaper.
The French were known for hand-blocked, hand-stenciled wallpaper, and the paper is French. It's not clear to me whether the box itself would have been made in France or not.
A notable feature of the hat was its partial leather lining, which helped date it, as later, hats were fully lined in leather or silk. The blonde pelt, initially thought to be beaver, might actually be an exceptionally fine wool due to its luxurious softness. Despite some moth damage, the hat remained well preserved, largely thanks to being stored in its original box. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
At auction, together, I would expect this to be in the range of $2,500 to $3,500. Indeed.
Baseball is more than just a game. It's a rich history, as revealed by appraiser Layla Dunbar in her evaluation of a rare and significant collection. The collection features items from the early Cincinnati Red Stockings, including Hall of Famers Harry Wright, George Wright, and Albert Spaulding. A key aspect of its value lies in the personal notes these players wrote to the owner's great-great-grandmother, adding significant provenance. Of special interest are the photographic baseball cards, which have never been seen together before. This collection not only connects to Boston's early baseball history, but also holds great significance in the sport's evolution. Dunbar describes the discovery as one of the most moving and memorable moments of her career on Antiques Roadshow. Tables are not just functional pieces of furniture, they often carry stories and significance beyond their surface. In the 1930s, a woman bought a table in New York City and kept it, despite her family's mixed opinions. Some thought it was Italian, others believed it was French Provençal, while one relative called it junk.
During the American Victorian period, there's a saying that too much is not enough, and that was basically the aesthetic. They would put in a lot of different elements.
Years later, an appraiser examined the table and identified it as a Renaissance revival piece. It was made in New York during the 1860s or 1870s. The table features a mix of woods like ebony, satinwood, and rosewood, with ornate designs such as urns and columns. It was made to showcase wealth and status, reflecting the decorative style of the Victorian era. The inlay work was done using steam-powered machines. While examining its condition, the appraiser said,
But the table in the market today is probably worth in the area of about $6,000 to $9,000.
Okay, that's good,
Really
wonderful.
good.
Musical instruments not only create beautiful sounds, but they also connect us to different cultures, histories, and emotions. In 1967, a college student found an unusual instrument in a small junk shop in Louisville, Kentucky, and bought it for $5. The instrument had rotary valves which the student knew were rare, but they didn't know much else about it.
This one is incredibly intact. This bell garland is also German silver. Sometimes you see them in a different material.
After showing it to a trumpet player, they guessed it might be from a Civil War band. An expert later confirmed it was an over-the-shoulder E-flat soprano saxhorn from around 1865. Made from high-quality German silver, the instrument was well preserved, with only a few small dents. Despite missing its mouthpiece, the horn remained a valuable and special find. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
It would probably sell in the range of $4,000.
Oh, wow.
Perhaps even $5,000.
Wow.
Paintings are not just pieces of art, they are windows into memories, emotions, and stories passed down through generations. The guests shared that they had inherited a painting from their paternal aunt, who, along with her husband, often traveled to New York City to Natchitoches, Louisiana, to visit his family. During these trips, the couple grew fond of the work of Clementine Hunter, an artist lovingly known as the Grandma Moses of the South. Passed down through the family, the painting carried deep sentimental value, tied to the memory of these visits. Its distinctive features, like the vibrant blackbirds and a goose tugging at a girl's dress, caught the appraiser's eye. Aunt June had a special fondness for the depiction of the old dogs in the scene, which added to the charm. With its lively subject matter and bold use of colour, the painting was particularly appealing. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
"Would probably retail be about $6,000.
Really? Wow, that's great.
Guitars play more than just notes. They often tell stories of craftsmanship and personal history. The guest revealed that the instrument originally belonged to her husband and was crafted by a close friend, featuring a mandolin on the top and a guitar at the bottom. This unique double-neck piece has been in the family since around 1950. The appraiser confirmed that her husband, known as Shorty Holloway, was the instrument's original owner, with his band name reflecting his small stature. The appraiser called it a double-neck guitar with a mandolin, noting single strings replaced with original doubled ones for easier tuning. The instrument resembled those made by Paul Bigsby in the late 1940s, suggesting Bigby's influence on regional builders. Its design allowed a three-piece band to sound like a four-piece, and the hand-tooled leather cover was praised for its creativity, colour, and the intricate stitching around both necks.
And it was very difficult to make because they had to stitch it all around both of these necks.
While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
I would say that in a specialty shop, my guess would be in the $2,500 to perhaps $3,500 range.
These championship rings belonged to a guest who was involved in the Yukon women's basketball team behind-the-scenes tasks. Such rings are given to the winning team, coaches, and people who work for the franchise. Over the years, the guest became a key part of the team's success, which included 11 national championship victories. These rings represented some of the best players in history. Her journey with the team began with Yukon's first national title in 1995 during the era of Rebecca Lobo and Pam Weber. This was followed by other championship years featuring notable players like Svetlana Abrasamova, Shea Ralph, now Vanderbilt's head coach, and Diana Taurasi. Later championships in 2009 and 2010 included stars such as Maya Moore, Tina Charles, and Renee Montgomery. In 2016, Yukon made history by winning 4 consecutive championships, led by Breanna Stewart, Morgan Tuck, and Mariah Jefferson, making them the only athletes in college basketball history to achieve such a feat. The guest was one of only 3 people to possess all 11 championship rings. Each ring was estimated to be worth,
I'd say, a championship ring from a Yukon women's basketball championship, which is very popular and very desirable, probably be worth between $3,000 and $4,000.
Due to its significance in the world of sports, the whole collection was valued at.
That a collection like this is so special and so important, I'd insure it for $100,000. No question about it.
Okay.
Prints not only capture a moment in time, but also convey the essence of the subject through art. A guest showed a special piece featuring caricatures of Ronald Reagan, who had signed it. The guest worked with Reagan for 6 years on General Electric Theatre. During this time, they assisted with Reagan's introductions and commercials. This personal connection made the piece very meaningful to the guest. The caricatures are fun, and Reagan wrote a playful note on them.
Obviously, the greatest value in this piece is the fact that you spent 6 years with Ronald Reagan, so it's a nice memory for you.
Yes.
Saying one face was for reshooting and another for remembering the guest fondly. The appraiser said that while similar pieces usually sell for $300 to $500, this one is worth more due to its unique background and personal touch. However, the guest feels its true value is priceless because of the memories it holds. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
I would definitely insure it for anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500.
The word is priceless.
Absolutely.
These lamps are more than just decoration, they're a piece of design history. Over 15 years ago, a guest stumbled upon 2 white glass lamps at a thrift store. They weren't even looking for lamps, just treasure hunting. Fast forward to today, and guess what? A friend recently told them that these lamps might actually be valuable, and boy were they right. Turns out, these lamps were designed by none other than the renowned Finnish designer Lisa Johansson Pape. You would never guess, but they were crafted in the 1960s and produced by the famous company Itatla. And here's the real surprise. These beauties, often called mushroom lamps, are worth significantly more as a pair. That's a jaw-dropping return on a $20 investment. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
because they're the larger size, in a retail venue, these would sell for between anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000.
Wow. For the pair or each?
For the pair.
Wow. Wow. That's a great $20 investment.
Fantastic.
These chairs are more than just furniture. They're iconic pieces of design history. Over 50 years ago, a guest got 2 Eames chairs from their grandmother when she moved into assisted living. At first, the guest planned to throw them away because they didn't fit in their car, but their fiancé suggested taking the chairs apart to fit them in. The grandmother had bought the chairs for just $5 from the Knights of Columbus.
My grandma paid $5 for them.
That's great.
The appraiser revealed these chairs are actually from 1949, earlier than the guests thought. Designed by Charles and Ray Eames, these chairs were a part of a competition to create affordable, quality furniture. The appraiser pointed out some cool features of these first-generation chairs, like the rope edge and translucent fiberglass. The item is a big surprise for something that originally just cost $5. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
had they been in perfect shape, the auction value would have been about $2,000. Now, due to the crack here, we're closer to about $1,500 for the pair.
Wow.
Table clocks are not just timepieces, but works of art, especially when they combine master craftsmanship and diverse styles. A couple visiting Prague discovered a Kirk table clock in an antique shop and, captivated by its design, purchased it for around $3,000. The expert immediately recognized the clock as exceptional, largely due to its larger size compared to most similar clocks. Manufactured in Germany by Kirk, a highly esteemed clockmaker, often referred to as the Cadillac of clock factories.
Kirk was in Kirk, Germany, and they were a highly thought of factory. They were the Cadillac of all the clock factories.
The clock was notable for its craftsmanship. Bronze was suspected as the primary material, with the case and hands potentially outsourced. The decorative, ungilded brass hands on an enamel dial added to its appeal. The clock's intriguing appeal came from its blend of Art Nouveau's flowing lines and Art Deco's angular design, highlighted by a triangular glass element. Even the Arabic numerals displayed this stylistic duality, with the number 6 reflecting the angularity of the glass. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
and at retail, we would put it at $3,800.
All right, that's great. That's good news.
Very good.
Muhammad Ali's legendary career continues to captivate fans. The guest presents a pair of Muhammad Ali's training shoes from around 1975, thought to be used before the Thriller in Manila fight. According to the guest, Ali used these shoes during his training after the fight, but they were eventually discarded due to the damage in the right front toe. Angelo Dundee, Ali's trainer, took the shoes when Ali was ready to part with them. He later passed them to the guest, who was then the executive sports editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer. The appraiser discusses the fight's significance as the third and final encounter between Ali and Joe Frazier, with Ali famously coining the name Thriller in Manila through his poetic promotions. Although the shoes are not from the fight itself, their association with Ali and the autograph give them considerable value. The guest lacks formal documentation beyond a note from Dundee, but the appraiser notes that the fully documented fight-worn shoes from the same event sold for $25,000 a decade ago. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
we can put a value for these at auction for between $15,000 and $20,000.
Rugs not only add warmth and beauty to a room, but they also tell stories through their patterns and history. A guest brought in a special Masonic Navajo rug that had been in his family for many years. His great-grandfather got it in the 1930s by trading work near Gallup, Mexico. The rug features Masonic symbols like the square and compasses, which represent living a just and moral life.
This Navajo weaving was woven with commercial yarn, which came from Germantown, Pennsylvania.
The appraiser, who was from Gallup and part Navajo, was excited to see the rug and felt strong connection to its story. He was impressed by how the Masonic and Navajo values in the rug connect people. Even though the rug has a high monetary value, the guest feels its true worth lies in the family story behind it. While examining the item's condition, the appraiser said,
For an insurance replacement value, I would say that a weaving like this would be around $10,000 to insure.
But for the family, it's the family story, and it gets brought out all the time, and new people get to learn the story. Now that you've added to it, I have more I can tell them.
Fantastic.
In this special episode, a ceramics expert takes a surprising interest in the forgotten furnitures of Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon was an Irish-born British figurative painter known for his bold, grotesque and emotionally charged works. He is considered one of the most important and influential artists of the 20th century. In the 1920s and early 1930s, before he became a prominent painter, Bacon worked as an interior designer and furniture designer in London and Berlin. During this period, he created modernist furniture pieces that reflected his interest in avant-garde design and his desire to break away from traditional styles.
But nobody has seen any of his furniture, ever.
Here is a book featuring rare photographs of Francis Bacon's unknown furniture creations.
And here is an article of photographs taken in his studio, which was a converted garage.
The furnishings reflect the style characteristic of that period. The fact that they are by Francis Bacon and have never been seen before would make these furnitures highly sought after.
Something like this dressing table, if that came to the market, £100,000, £200,000, the right piece could be worth £1 million.
£1 million?
£1 million.